I tried different types of builds against Malenia. Now, as we all know, Malenia is without a doubt the hardest and probably the most broken boss that From Software has ever made. Fortunately, From Software put this boss in Elden Ring, which has a lot more freedom compared to the other Souls games, and a lot more freedom to exploit the game with your creation. However, since it is easier to exploit the game, a lot of the builds that the players have seems to converge to either a mage or a bleed build. It is understandable why a lot of people would use those builds. A mage can deal a huge amount of damage from a distance. What more could you possibly want? I'm a fire in my laser! It is so easy that even this guy can do it. A bleed build is not as broken as the mage build, but the amount of damage that it can deal in a short amount of time is crazy. To top it all off, most people also use the mimic tier, which makes every fight even easier. While I think it's cool that we can create those builds, I think it is unfortunate that many players would fall for the same build and not utilizing any other things that the game provides you. So, in this video, I'll try out some builds that many people would avoid using against Malenia. But before that, no, this is not a sponsored segment, this channel is not even monetized. Let's try out the broken build first. This is a build that is centered around the Rivers of Blood. It deals both bleed and fire damage. Those two damage types are Malenia's weakness, so it can easily deal a lot of damage. To make the fight consistent, I decided to use the parry strategy on her, and I will use this on the other build as well. Whenever I did a critical attack on her, I would always use the broken Ash of War on her. That combo already put her less than 50% health. I don't have a good reaction time, so I use a shield. Annoyingly, this made her gain her health back. And she did the waterfall dance. Luckily, I was barely far enough to run away from it. The fight continues. I waited for the right chance to parry and end the first phase of the fight. For the second phase, I easily dodged her Scarlet Aeonia, then used the chance to buff up my character and summon the Divine General Mahorag Omen Killer Rolo. I don't understand why many others don't use this summon. Rolo deals both fire and bleed damage. It can't be staggered easily unlike the Mimic tier, and to top it all off, Rolo can ragdoll. I think this summon is literally engineered to defeat Malenia. Look at Rolo just tanking the Scarlet Aeonia. After ganking her and spamming the same attacks over and over, I finally beat her.
Strength extraordinary. The mark of a true lord.
This strategy, as I expected, performed extremely well. It allowed me to play extremely aggressive against her with very little consequences. Because it deals so much damage in a short amount of time, she barely uses any of her difficult attacks, especially in the second phase. I'm not surprised to see that any players who are struggling on this fight would use this build to defeat her. That was my thoughts on the Malenia Annihilator build. On to the next one. For this build, I used the Zweihander with the Giant Hunt Ash of War. Also, a little disclaimer, this is the NG Plus version of Malenia, which means she is a little bit more powerful. I just can't be bothered to change the build of my other character, and this one is my only proper tank build. To be fair, this character is also an NG Plus character, so I think it's fair enough. One of the main advantages of using a big weapon like this is that you can stun and cancel her attacks most of the time. I decided to not rely on parrying for this attempt, which will not end well soon. Every time she got knocked down, I launched her with the air, with the Giant Hunt. It's so dumb. I got greedy here. You shouldn't punish her attacks like this. It is way too risky. And impending doom. Luckily, I was quick enough to use my shield, and not so luckily, I just can't keep up with her lightning fast attacks. On my second attempt, I decided to experiment with Giant Hunt. This made me realize that all it takes to break her stance is 2 Giant Hunts and a single light attack. This realization, however, got me greedy and I died to the anime move. On my third attempt, continuing to use the giant hunt, and for some reason, now it needs 2 giant hunts and 2 light attacks to break her stance. This is because Malenia have the ability to completely ignore the rules of the game in some of her attacks. Thank you, From Software. Anyway, for this attempt though, I managed to get to the second phase of the fight. I tried to do the ragdoll loop again, but she uses the power of God and anime. I died again because I can't keep up. On my fourth attempt, I got bored with the Zweihander and switched my weapon to the Golem's Halberd with the Wave of Darkness after 4. I also decided to do the parry strategy again, which I completely blundered in this attempt, and I died again. On my fifth attempt, I finally walk in and showcase what this weapon is capable of. That was probably the smoothest waterfall dance so far. Near the end of the first fight, Malenia showed us once again that she does not play by the rules. I got into the second phase and died again. Sixth and final attempt, Malenia once again said nah, I'd win, got into the second phase and played a lot more carefully this time. She got desperate and sent her Mimic Third to destroy me. I have no idea how I survived that. And with that final parry, I finally defeat her using this build.
Your strength. Extraordinary. The mark of a true lord.
From the start, I've already expected that I would struggle a lot using colossal weapons. It is satisfying and kind of funny to ragdoll and interrupt most of her attacks, but I think it is a bit too slow for this fight. Because of this, you can't be too aggressive when you fought her, which made the fight a lot longer, which also made you prone to mistakes, because the longer the fight, the more likely for you to make more mistakes. Then again, it's probably just skill issue. On to the next build. In case you didn't know, the Strike Sword is one of the best weapon classes in Dark Souls 3. It deals so much damage and it is also very quick. The same thing can be said in Elden Ring. The Strike Swords here are a shadow of its former self. The only redeeming quality that the Strike Swords have in this game is the fact that you can put the Square Off as your 4, which deals a lot of stance damage. All it takes are 2 square offs and you can do a critical attack. Well, if she decided to play by the rules, that is. Anyway, for the first attempt, I got her to 1 health and she did the damn move. On the second attempt, I managed to get to the second phase and I decided to force Finway to fight against his own will. I feel that Finway helped her more than it helps me here, as you can tell by Malenia's health bar. I failed this attempt again. On the third attempt, I failed again. I decided just to use the parry strategy. I can't fight her without it. The cool thing about combining parry and the square off Asher 4 is that you can spam critical attack on her very easily. I got to the second phase without summoning Finway. On this attempt, Malenia seems to use a lot of Scarlet Aeonias, which is kind of good for me because it gave me a little bit of rest. I also switched my weapon to the Rotten Crystal Sword and summoned Finway because I am diabolical. Yeah, that is not terrifying at all. At the end of the fight, I got my revenge on Finway. A tiny detail of if you use Finway to defeat her, Finway will despawn immediately. I think Finway is plotting a revenge. Even though I technically performed worse with the Strike Sword compared to the Rivers of Blood, I enjoy using the Strike Sword more, mainly because of those square off Ash of War. I think this weapon could potentially be comparable or even better than the Rivers of Blood if you're a better player than me, of course. If you can pull it off, this fight will be a loop of you breaking her stance using the Ash of War until the fight ends. I did not expect this weapon to have this much potential, and in fact, I did not expect that both builds to be good. The reason why I used both of those builds is because I thought it would make the fight unnecessarily difficult and of course torture Finway. Don't get me wrong, using those builds would force you to learn a lot more about Malenia's moveset, and it is definitely more difficult, but that's okay. Malenia is what I consider to be the true final boss of this game. The rewards upon defeating her are not that rewarding, except if you're avoiding a certain ending, of course. She's not an obstacle that hinders your progress, she's just there, waiting for something to happen. You can tell that there are so much love, care, and effort being put when developing this boss to the point where she has some broken abilities that are exclusive only for her. I don't think I have this much fun when fighting a boss in a Souls game. The fact that she's so overpowered makes it more fun and rewarding to experiment on all sorts of different builds, weapons, and items. Even if something doesn't work out against her, who cares? You have nothing to lose at this point in the game. Malenia is, in my opinion, the best boss that From Software has ever made. Yes, this video is a hidden short video essay on why I think Malenia is the best boss even though she's completely broken. Thank you for watching.